En sån här dag är inte möjlig att genomföra utan kaffe, frukost, kaffe, lunch och eftermiddagskaffe. Och jag nämnde ju förut, och vi applåderade då, föreningen Alltid på rätt väg som har hjälpt oss med catering. Jag tänkte presentera er. Välkomna upp på scen. Nu har jag lärt mig 3 namn. Det är Seija, Rosita, Jari och sen är det ytterligare Alvar. Och sen var det ytterligare någon. Välkommen upp. Och du skulle inte säga något för du skulle bara vara vacker, sa du. Ja. Så du och jag matchar ju varann, eller hur? Och nu har du pratat jättemycket. Vem av er vill berätta lite om föreningens arbete? Rosita, varsågod.
Hej alla. Jag kan försöka. Vi har en förening som heter Alltid på rätt väg. Det är vår första catering och hoppas alla är nöjda. Syftet för föreningen är att hålla ungdomarna borta från gatan och bland annat borta från missbruket. Och vi gör catering för att samla in pengar. Vi tackar för oss.
Tack så mycket. Det är det seminarium som vi kör på engelska och det ska handla om social mobilisering. Och handlar ju om hur kan vi ge stöd åt människor att organisera sig för att själva ta strid för sina mänskliga rättigheter. How to support people that want to organize themselves to fight for, struggle for their human rights. And for that reason we have a guest from Bronx, New York, and that's Rafael Samanez, who was the founder of a very well-known, I would say nearly world-famous organization called Vamos Unidos. It's an organization that we want to learn from and have the possibility to exchange experiences. Welcome. I will now give you the floor. Please.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And I will sit here so you won't be nervous.
Sounds good. Thank you. My name is Rafael Samanez. I'm the executive director and founder of Vamos Unidos. I just also, first and foremost, like to thank for inviting me to this beautiful country and able to speak here in front of all you. And so I'm just going to go through a couple of things. Basically, our organization, Vamos Unidos, is comprised mostly of street vendors in New York City, selling variety of foods from tamales, is a very Mexican cuisine, to bags, flowers, everything as you can imagine. Just a little bit more about myself, so people know I was born in Brazil. My parents are Peruvian. I lived in Peru and I migrated to the U.S. when I was 12 years old, to Cleveland, Ohio, out of all the places where it gets to negative 20 degrees, so it's pretty cold. And I also opened a food cart in Midtown. It became very popular, and my brother is a chef. He's able to cook the food rather well. And as you can see, people love our food. Another person, very satisfied customer. And it's basically, as you can see, it's lots of people. It's an informal kind of work that's developing in the developed nations, especially in the U.S. As a result of the financial crisis, 2009, the mortgage crisis, a lot of people lost their jobs and turned to the informal sector to be able to make a sustainable living. And we see that happening in the United States throughout many cities. And cities incorporate different attitude towards vendors. Some agree with them and help them, and others criminalize the vending, which happened in New York, and that's why we organized. So I'll speak a little bit about where the members come from our organization, our strategies, what we do in order to be able to grow the organization and sustain it. But really quickly, for Western nations, historical legacies of migrations have combined with modern-day globalization and increasing international migration to pose new challenges to extending and strengthening democratic institutions to include growing racial and ethnic populations. So I think it's really important to understand that there's a shift going on right now where there's a lot of migration increasing, to the global north. It's approximated that 232 million international migrants are in the world today, and 53 million in between 1990 and 2013. 53 million came to the global north. In the U.S., the population grew from 11.1% to 13% between 2000 and 2011, which is a big growth. While in Europe, there's approximately 25 million foreign-born people, comprising 5% of the total. So there's a shifting racial and ethnic demographics happening that have brought concurrent new challenges of xenophobia, and racial tensions, which can undermine social and political cohesion, becoming needed in effective democracies in the long term. In this changing demographic, changing situation, political panorama, we begin creating these organizations. But first and foremost, we have to ask, what is the purpose of building an organization? Whether it's to push a specific campaign, to provide services, to change institutional policies, or just be the voice of the community in different areas in different times. So one must ask, as we begin building these organizations, what is the purpose? For Vamos Unidos, for us, it integrated a lot of these things. So we created a mass-based organization, which we believe that mass-based organizations eventually incorporate a lot of these things because the members become the leaders, and the members want to basically push this campaign, have these services. So as organizers, we have to see how we can incorporate all these things. Then it's a long process. A long process is the first thing. We've been organizing for approximately, as Vamos Unidos since 2007, but even before that, since 2003, we've been organizing with the street vendors. So it's been over 10 years that we've been in this struggle, and it's a long process. Funding, it's also something that's very real and very elusive at times. I'll speak about that. I put 2 little stars because it's something really important I want to get back to, and I'll speak about it in a little bit. And a challenge I always see as one of the main challenges is developing skills, political consciousness from members. And that's something that's really important in order to maintain the campaign work and maintain the sustainability of the organization. Because if it's only one person, there is no continuation if that person leaves. So you must focus on, especially the youth, developing them as they have access to education a lot of times, in the countries they're in. So when and why Vamos Unidos formed? We formed in 2007 as a result of the arrests of women street vendors, actually. So the organization was pushed forward by women, mothers, many single mothers that were being abused, arrested, the rights violated. And so here's a picture of actually one of our members, Rosa. He's the leader of the organization, has been with us since the beginning. And here she's being arrested. You can see her tamales right next to her. And just want to emphasize how traumatizing this is for a lot of people who are regular moms and dads, in the family and have a family. And when this happens, to be treated in this way is very demeaning and is very shocking for them a lot of times. Some members have explained to me that they have actually gotten sick with diabetes as a result of, they probably were predisposed to diabetes, but a moment where stress is so strong that they can track it back that, yes, that moment I started getting all these symptoms and stuff like that, and my diabetes started. So I'm going to show you a video just so we have a little idea of what I'm talking about, because pictures can only down a little bit so I can stop. So this is the Department of Sanitation, Parks, and they have Rogelio, one of our members, who's been trained in how to know your rights campaign, basically when something's happening against them, not to run, not to get scared, but actually film it so that we can use it if we need to institute some lawsuit or anything. So right now, this is what's happening is they've gotten all his stuff that he's vending in the streets, and they're putting it in a truck, in a garbage truck. I'm going to scroll through it so you don't watch the whole thing and just watch the important parts. So you can see it's a lot of the community's there. A lot of the community buys the stuff from the vendors. They know the vendors. They're a staple of the community. So it's, usually the community comes out in support of the vendors. But what I'm talking about traumatizing is, Rogelio built this cart. His cart, it took him about a good 3 weeks to build. And what you see right now is illegal, actually. It's called conversion. It's against the law what the police is doing. You cannot destroy any property on the spot. You have to actually go to court, and if the judge deems it that needs to be destroyed, then they're destroyed. So, and this is what I'm talking about, where it's very stressful, very impactful on the vendors. And here they're bringing another cart. Rogelio, these carts don't have a permit. They're supposed to have a permit, so they're supposed to be impounded but not destroyed. Rogelio has a personal license, which we were able to get in 2005. We were able to win this license for vendors. Even if they're undocumented, they're able to get these licenses as of 2005. So he has one. So he pays his taxes every 3 months because we do their taxes. I know he does his taxes. And as you can see, get the idea of how strong the treatment is, and basically here, he's being told that he's like, this is the officer that's...
Oh, thank you. You could videotape me all you want. This license is fraudulent.
Okay. And it's not fraudulent because I actually processed the license for him. I know it's real. So it's just in... However, the rights can be violated. Sometimes it happens. So, again, this was the reason that Vamos started. These are the kind of treatments that we saw. The vendors kept saying, this is happening to us. So we decided to organize. And Vamos Unidos, what we also do is provide the vendors to know all the restrictions and everything that the vending they need for vending. And as you can see here, we also intervene with when the police are there to allow vendors to sell. And to talk a little bit about where our membership comes from. Our membership comes from mostly Mexico, Latin America, Ecuador. There's a lot of members from Ecuador. We have increasing members from other countries from South America, but most of them come from Mexico. And when you talk to the members, most of them come after 1994. As you all know, most likely as the U.S. passed the North American Free Trade Agreement, which U.S. farmers' tax subsidies outcompeted the Mexican corn, which was its biggest industry. Immediately, you have 1 million Mexican farmers jobless, nowhere to go. Many had small lands, tracts of lands that they would actually farm, go to the market, and sell. But now they have huge competitors coming in like Walmart, other types of huge industries that they were not able to sell the corn as cheap as those industries. So many people migrate to the north, to the U.S. You have 8 million people migrate to the U.S. looking for jobs as of 2012. And in the as they come to the U.S., they face many, many tragedies. Most members have a family member that's actually disappeared at the border, crossing the border. And this is a picture actually from the morgue at the border where people have passed away and never been recovered. This is a person actually that it's probably just 1 or 2 months in the desert. And it's been eaten by animals, and it's pretty gruesome, but my members are saying it's very important for us to see this and realize what's happening, that there is a human crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border, as well as the African-European borders and seas. Most of our vendors are single mothers, like I said before. They're used in formal work because it allows them the flexibility to take care of their kids as well as work. As you can see, little Miguelito right there. He's taking a rest while his mother is vending. So the mission of Vamos Unidos is to create strong membership base that are politically active, conscious, and able to carry organization forward. So that's one of the main focuses of the organization. 2, to advocate for street vendor rights. 3, confront police precincts to decrease arrests, high fines, and confiscations. 4, advocate for migrant rights. 5, stand in solidarity with sister organizations. And that last one is really important. The solidarity that we have to build amongst different communities is really important. So this is a quick map of where we stand. I don't know if my pointer works. Yeah, perfect. So this is the main office. As you can see, this is an unemployment map of New York City. This is the Bronx right here. You have Manhattan over here. This is like where Wall Street and everything is. Then you have Queens over here, and you have Brooklyn. We are situated right in the highest unemployment, 8.1% to 12% here in the Bronx and Upper Manhattan. We hold meetings, 3 meetings a month, one right here, and one in Brooklyn. And as you can see, and we, at the beginning, we didn't plan it like this, but it just ended up that we were actually situated in some of the highest areas of unemployment. And people actually street vent as a result of the high unemployment rates, where they can't get a job, so they have to somehow make a living, and they go into street vending. And these bigger circles is where we plan to expand the organization's works, resources, just to get a little idea of what's going on. So something that we hold very dear in the organization, very to our core, is the leadership development. Leadership development in the organization is basic, meaning that even though I can talk to all the medias and talk for the vendors, I step back and allow the vendors to speak for themselves. And this is very important because it creates an empowerment of the actual members, and it carries the work even much farther. The vendors begin to push even the staff that they need to do this, we need to be here, we need to, because they understand that they're invested in the campaign and in the organization. This is actually Rogelio. Rogelio is a member that used to travel all the way from Brooklyn, 2 hours to come to our meetings, and he said to me, Rafael, why don't we start doing meetings in Brooklyn? So there's a lot of vendors that don't travel 2 hours, but they can just go 15 minutes away and join the workshops that we're doing. And we did. We started a satellite office in Brooklyn, and then the same thing happened in Queens. So this is what I'm talking is the vendors themselves, once politicized, once empowered, push the organization to expand or change as they see fit. Again, this is another picture of, this is Maria Piedad. She actually was an ex-mayor in Colombia. She's known as the arepa lady of New York City, cooks, prepares the best arepas. And here we are actually talking to the council member, the speaker, council member, Christine Quinn, who's the main council member, and here we're in a meeting, and the actual members are explaining the situation to her. I put stay relevant. Part of the organization's mission is to stay relevant with the vendors, meaning that what they need is we also incorporate it into our work. For example, she's holding up a license. Prior to 2005, undocumented workers were not able to get a license in New York City. So when they would see a police, they would run, and it created a very dangerous situation because, as you've heard, there's a lot of racism within the police department, a lot of shootings of people of color, especially black folks, African Americans, So by having this license, vendors can actually pay taxes and not run away from the cops. So our offices are in the Bronx, Queens, and Brooklyn. The Queens and the Brooklyn are actually donated space from vendors, so it's just a basement where we meet. We have 4 membership meetings per month. We actually decreased it to 3 because there's a lot of work. It's a lot of work holding these meetings every month. So this is our structure. The membership does political decisions. The leadership body is the board, and the staff is kept accountable by the leadership body. And our leadership body is comprised of all members within the organizations, and 2 people that are not members but are activists in the community. This is our progression since 2007 regarding members. So we started with 2007 members, and we are at we started with 30 members, and we are at 610 members. I wish we started with 2,700.
It's a jet lag.
So, yeah, like I said, it's a long process. It's slow, the growth, but when we march, it's about 300 people, and it's powerful. People notice us, and we become an organization that's known for being able to turn people out for these marches. So Vamos Unidos, these are all the sectors that we focus on. Membership recruitment and retention is really important, meaning constant communication with our members. We have to be in the streets, visit our members when they're vending, go to when they have a party and they invite you, you must be there. Baptisms, everything, so it's something really important. Leadership development, one of the key staples or columns of the organization is how to do public speaking, political education for their members, and organizational memory is really important that people that are coming into the organization understand how it started, why it started, and why it needs to continue to be present, and their importance of their presence as new members. Services, we do their licenses, their taxes, the business development. So that's something that we help. And then political campaigns. It's pretty difficult sometimes to carry political campaigns on the long haul, especially with funding. But so these are some of our wins that we've had in 2005. We basically organized street vendors to fight and win the right to apply for the licenses. And that's what I was talking about. With only a tax ID, they can actually get a license and their passport. Before, they needed a Social Security, which in order to get a Social Security, you need to be a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen. So that was a huge win for us. 2009, we win vendors 1,000 new permits for the carts. For vending green cards, and that's really interesting because the city had always been demonizing vendors, but then all of a sudden they became the solution of how to get fruits and vegetables into areas where there wasn't any fruits and vegetables. They said, well, why don't we give 1,000 licenses to vendors, and they put in the corner fruits and vegetables, and they sell it in the streets of underserved neighborhoods, and it has worked very, very well. So these are examples of how we can use our own people to solve problems of the community. So that was really important. In 2013, we decreased fines from $1,000 to $500. Each fine is $1,000. You can imagine people that make $10,000, $15,000 a year, US dollars, $1,000 can literally make them bankrupt. So the organization has gone, this is our current model. And you see over there, the no funding, I'm gonna talk about that in 2015, but we started with no funding in 2007, membership was 30. Funded from these years, and the membership became 573. And then this year, the funding in the US has changed, where they don't fund anymore community organizing as much as they did back in 2007. So it's a huge problem within many organizations have closed down. So what we're doing is actually depending on the leadership that we've developed of members. And one part I think that I'm going to end this presentation is really quick. The power that we have is based on the large basis of members that we create. We have to have a clear ideology and vision. We practice, which is education, and exercise, so marches. 4, we need victories to make sure we celebrate those victories. And I just want to clarify if it's okay. Can I show a small video of 20 seconds? Let me see. Just so you understand a little bit of get an idea of the vendors organizing.
A few dozen street vendors and business owners rallied in front of Councilwoman Helen Sears' office Thursday. They say the push to restrict street vendors and 24-hour stores in the neighborhood is unfair and anti-immigrant. Rafael Samanez is with Vamos Unidos, one of the groups that organized the rally.
When they say that vendors who are, a lot of our immigrants, are dirty, that they bring rats, that's very anti-immigrant. That's very racist to say that.
We're working hard, we make a living. Every day we make $60, $70, $80. And some people, some residents around here, some businessmen, I think they're complaining about us.
The protesters say Councilwoman Sears and other groups in Jackson Heights want to create vendor-free zones along 37th Avenue and Roosevelt Avenue, something they say would put them out of business.
The effort to create a vendor-free zone will completely change the character of Jackson Heights, will make hundreds, if not thousands of families lose jobs that are supported by street vending, as well as push out South Asian immigrants.
So take this away from us. I don't understand what they're getting.
In a statement, Councilwoman Sears said, "I called for a vendor-free zone because the area has become overly dense with vending carts that impede traffic and threaten public safety. Many of the carts are operated illegally, and residents and small businesses have long taken issue with them. I welcome constituents voicing their concerns and look forward to addressing the issues that they have brought with them here today." The protesters are pushing for more permits to be issued so more vendors could be licensed, and they vow to continue their protest until the vendor-free zone proposal
Well,
is
what
dropped.
happened with this council member
Jackson
is that we
Heights,
were able
Sandra King, New
to
York.
throw her out of office, even though our members can't vote, by exposing what she was doing. So that's very powerful for the vendors to happen. So I'm going to end the presentation with a little how we usually end it in our meetings, and basically it's just going to be a unity clap. I'm sure many have experienced this, but it starts slowly, and you just follow me, and we get progressively faster. Okay? So. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Please take a seat here.
Great.
You can sit here. And that applause was even for you. Thank you for your presentation. You gave us an outstanding example of human and social mobilization. And now the question is it possible to make this kind of organization and social mobilization in Sweden? And therefore, sooner or later, I will introduce and welcome Frida Yohannes, who is project leader for a Swedish example, to take the floor. Please, Frida.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. I think
Hi.
the sound is good.
Yeah, the sound is good. Yes, I mean, Rafael, thank you. He spoke about community organizing in
Frida,
the US. Yes.
jag tror att ditt örhänge ligger och skaver där.
Okej, vänta, ta bort.
Ska jag ta det för att jag har ingen mikrofon på den sidan? Du tar. Tack.
Hello. Yes.
It was just practical.
I'm going to take this. I mean, obviously, I speak Swedish, but I'm going to do it in English so that Rafael can follow. This is a sneak peek of. This is basically just an insight how we have done community organizing in Stockholm, in Sweden, and this is a sneak peek of the project Local Social Mobilization, Humane Society. I just quickly want to say that we're going to have our end conference 3rd of December in Malmö Högskola. We're going to have seminars, workshop, and we're also going to have a book release. Sorry, that has an anthology with the cases, a selection of our cases that you can read about. So please leave your email addresses in the entrance, and we'll send you some info. Okay, now, just quickly about the project. It's a 3-year project, and the objective is basically to implement and document social mobilization initiatives in order to develop best practices. And the key words is that, acting as an enabler, human rights, empowerment, and the implementation is based that it's in 4 cities, Malmö, Gothenburg, Linköping, and Stockholm. And we've conducted about 80 mobilization projects, 16 human rights courses, trainings at 4 different community colleges. You can see which ones they are. We also have a researcher who follows our process from Malmö University, Oscar Andersson. And then the financer is the postcode lottery. Yes. So, who am I? I'm Frida Yohannes. I'm one of the local project managers, and I work in Stockholm. Some of the mobilization projects that I have been a part in starting, they are here. Like, for example, This Too Shall Pass is a group of undocumented people in northern Stockholm. Blixtjobb is one of the city missions units. And we have FAMIs and women in Verdandi, Sundbyberg, Eritrean diaspora, as well as some youths in northern Stockholm. And the picture you see here is actually the first board meeting of the association called FAMIS, which stands for, it's an association for African migrants who come to Stockholm. But they're not just EU migrants, they are third country national migrants. So that means that the rights that are given to them are quite limited compared to EU citizen migrants. So when they came to Sweden, they realized that there were a lot of things they didn't know about the rights and how the system works and so on. So they wanted to fill that void. So they've started this association to be like an introduction center for the ones who are coming. Lessons learned and highlights so far is that, number one, how do we find our mobilization projects? Like, how did we come in contact with these groups? Obviously, through the city missions, the Stadsmissioner's different units and departments, and through their external network. And also, like, sitting on the bench, where basically means literally we go to an area and we just sit on the park bench there, try to enter into dialogue and conversation with people so you can get like a social temperature of what is happening there, which one of my coworkers did as well in southern Stockholm once. And then we also, through education association like ABF, census, obviously youth centers, which gives you more a natural environment to just go and hang out and see, you know, what the kids are, the problems are and what they're doing. And then you can see, and it's also other nonprofit organizations and through colleges as well. What has worked so far? What has worked the best? I mean, for us, it's been the Education Association, because, for example, RBF have a lot of activities for vulnerable groups or disadvantaged groups. So it's an easy way to come in and contact with groups and, you know, talk with them. As obviously youth centers too and other NGOs. I mean, and when it comes to our own city missions department, the ones who have been established more longer, like Crossroads and so on, it's been a bit more easier to come in contact with groups than the ones who are in the starting phase. But having said that, in the starting phase, if you have this kind of perspective of community organizing and so on, you can also reach out there as well. I mean, the second part of the project is how have we been implementing. Is basically the process has these main steps that, number one, the gatekeepers, you know, how do you come in contact? And there are, I would call them, there are some who are spokespeople, or they are like a representative for the groups, which is obviously has its pros and cons. The pros is that in line with trust building, if they introduce you to the group, there is already a line of trust there. The cons can be that some gatekeepers are very overprotective over the groups, and so they don't always let you have access. And then continuity is very important, like creating continuous meeting places, so that even that is just basic, you need to have that. And long-term perspective and empowerment, very much. I mean, empowerment is very ambiguous, but the way we worked in the project is that in order to get that boost feeling, you know, you set up these short-term goals, and then when the group sees that, you know, their work or they see like some change very quickly in the process, that becomes like a boost that is injected again, and, you know, and they become even more empowered through that. And networking, obviously, also very important. We become like a contact person for a wider network because they're very isolated sometimes. So we worked a lot with networking activities. Then quickly, I just want to say something about exit. It's very different from groups to groups, but overall is that it's important to have a clarity that I'm working as a project manager. My time is limited, the funds are limited, but I will try to do what I can, but obviously that they understand that, you know, because you become one of the groups sometimes, but it's important to be clear about what the project is, what the time limit is, and so on. And to always have continuous conversation about what happens next, you know, prepare so that even the group can prepare to become self-sufficient. That's the ideal. And also plan in for an exit time from the start. We have different that I just want to sum up. I mean, it's hard to sum up quickly. What we do is so different from groups to group, but I just put some key words that I think very much emphasize what we do, and it's the boost feeling. I could also call it like a source of inspiration. You know, if you get that boost feeling and you slowly start realizing, I mean, the group that realizing their potential. And then the time is a very important factor, because obviously this kind of project, it should be more something that should be done in a unit or a department, not just a 3-year project, because it's very hard to get the results you want. I mean, we heard Vamos Unidos, you're on your 10th year, so time is a factor. And creating meeting places, providing the tools. I mean, that is also an essence, that we're inviting people into these places, but also, you know, they need the tools for the next step, and we've done that maybe with the human rights course and so on. Sorry. And this is that, sorry, we are facilitators, not doers. You know, we are there to work with, not work for. Like I mentioned before, short-term goals, a lot to connect it with the boost feelings. Community organizing, it's very much like it's quite new in Sweden, and so it's very groundbreaking the way we worked. And empowerment, definitely. I mentioned that earlier. Time again, because it's very important. And that's it. Thank you for me.
Thank you. Perhaps we should try it again. Will you please lead us?
Sure.
That's for your groundbreaking work.
Yes.
Frida. And I will, before the next speaker, is there any questions or reflections that you, as an audience, will make? We have Sophia here with the microphone. Is there anyone who wants to say something? Yes, please, Marika. Oh. Den är inte igång. Is another microphone?
No, it's working now. It's on. I just want to ask both of you if you have made any evaluations of the different, both in Vamos Unidos, yes, and in Sweden, where the participants, have they described what difference it has made that
in their lives?
No, no. That the facilitating the help from you from the start, because I can imagine after some time, if you've been doing your work well, they will hardly anymore recognize that you're needed. And I wonder if they, after evaluate, do they say that it's because of you they have managed to do the things, or is it somewhere? What do they say about your role?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, because I didn't mention that we have two. If you broadly divide the groups into two sections, you have some groups who are already established and they've come a certain way in the process. So maybe they just want to help with reaching out to another network or so on. So for them, they may feel that we're just a complement. You know, we support them in maybe writing an article or getting a campaign started. That's one side. So for them, I think we're just a complement. But then you have the other group who initially, when you meet them, they may not show interest or they haven't thought along those lines to organize. But then through the process, they become empowered or they become strengthened. And they are very much dependent on you, that kind of support. So it depends.
Would you comment on the question?
Sure. I think there's healthy recognition and there's dependency, which cannot be so healthy. So healthy recognition. I mean, members do recognize that the sacrifice that myself and other members and workers have made, working without any pay from long times, and that makes you feel good. The boost feeling that you're talking about for us. We're not machines either, so we burn out, so it's important to have that recognition from the membership. But the dependency is something that's needed for some time, but also needs to be looked at how you can kind of get away from being the center of attention. And that's something that's hard because people naturally want to do that, I think, because they've seen you've helped them out, so they want to go to you for anything, you know. But slowly you have to, actually, it has to be a conversation within the organization that, openly conversation, that's not the purpose of the organization, that we need to build other leaders to be able to take the organization forward as well, and it cannot just be one person. So that's really important. So it's this healthy and unhealthy thing that happens. Yeah.
Am I too personal if I ask, have you ever met the risk of a personal burnout? You have been working with so hard.
Many times. And
how do you find new inspiration when you feel really tired?
I mean, it's, you know, we've gone through trainings on meditation. We've gone through trainings of creating our own personal mantra and what keeps you going, you know. And sometimes you need the space to do other things and then come back to the work. Mm-hmm. So that's when I say that the dependency can be dangerous, because if it's dependent, as soon as you leave for that, the organization crumbles, you know. So it needs to continue to keep going.
You, Frida?
Yeah, I mean, the personal burnout situation is more to do with, because you come very close with the groups, you build relationships, and then it's very hard to just exit, I think. But of course, the time essence is very hard, because you have to spend a lot of time one-on-one before you get any results. Yeah.
And you build this into your leadership development too. You have to take care of yourself to be able to take care of your
Very
mission
much.
and other.
Very much, yeah. And I mean, it becomes a thing where sometimes you don't eat because you're working so hard. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you forget about your, you know, exercising, eating well, all that. So
or your close family.
Yeah,
even.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, for a couple years when we started organization, I mean, I spoke to my mom maybe once every 3 months, you know. So. Of course, she called me and, you know, punished me a little bit. But yeah, it's a sacrifice that you have to make. But you have to watch that you don't burn out. It's very real.
Mm. Because in our type of organizations, there's a great risk of that. Mishka, and then we go on. Mishka, please take the microphone. Mishka was part of the seminar before this.
Yeah, it's Mircea, actually.
Yeah,
but it's okay.
You told me I was very good at saying.
You were very good at saying it, very good.
But I lost some of it.
On the way, it happens.
You can call me Petter.
Okay. Peter Eagle.
Yes.
But my question is in the context of Sweden being, or in Sweden, labor unions are very strong entities, and they're very strong in front of the employers. They're very strong for the employees and in contact with the political spheres and so on. So my question is directed towards Vamos Unidos. How do you work? Do you work with labor unions in United States, or is it your organization actually that plays that role for the members? And then it's also related to what's happening in Sweden with the social enterprising, social mobilization projects. If these projects are in a way cooperating with the labor unions, or is it the organization itself which again takes upon its role as a
Would you start answering?
Yes. I just want to say quickly, it's the latter that you say. I think it's important for the group itself, if they want to make those kind of relations or reach out to labor union, they may do that, you know, but it's not anything that we have directly, it's not an actor that we have directly linked them with. If it's relevant for their cause or their situation or what they're trying to do, definitely.
Yes, that's a great question, actually. I mean, in the U.S., unions have played an important role in rights and workers' rights, and we give them, as an organization, a lot of credit. We actually, in our political education, study unions. There is also that history of unions excluding workers, especially workers of color, especially African American workers from the unions, them having to start their own, and eventually, migrants also being excluded from unions. And this exclusion was what led to worker centers starting to mimic the work that the unions were, doing, but for the members. And it took a different feel because the unions became very top-down, while these organizations became very parallel, horizontal, parallel horizontal. So and then you see them push the unions to begin accepting or having to change, the way they were perceiving migrant workers, more than a threat to actually, that they can incorporate into the union. So organizations like ours have played that role. What we try to do is to try to see a common ground. How can we can work together? For example, in the PGA that we were here in Stockholm last year, we were able to work with the federal trade unions to be able to move an agenda, a very progressive agenda, with global migration. And it's the combination of unions and local organizations working together. So yes, there can be some friction, but we have to work beyond those frictions, repair and then move forward.
Win-win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another guest is Rafael Velasquez.
No, Juan.
Juan. Is it late in the afternoon or? Juan Velasquez, who is a senior lecturer at the University in Gothenburg.
Yes.
Please take the floor. Will you sit with us here?
Yeah.
You have a short presentation.
I got a presentation, yes.
Rafael, you told us about how important it is to learn and from the process and development. And I think what you can do now is to give us some reflections on both organizations, really. Please, Juan.
Yes, I will try to say something about these the groups, the target groups of these two organizations. The important thing is they have named the question of women, and this is very important to take to grasp. The mobilization of women is very central in this kind of organizations, and especially when you open the floor for participation, then the participation of women are creating another kind of transformations, both within the organizations and within the whole political system, when women are more incorporating different kinds of methodologies and another kind of forms of mobilization in which, for example, emotional contents are more predominant than it is in, for example, worker or unions organizations which are much more masculine and more organized through another kind of values. So what I can say is that there is a very interesting story about participation, because in the United States, back in the 1960s, when the apartheid system were quite explicit, it was a lot of investments and a lot of initiatives on participation. And then it was another kind of momentum when the black communities were excluded from participation, and created a special concept. It names tokenism, when you have a kind of symbolic participation. You are incorporating people in the lists, for example, for voting, but they are not actually not impact and not power to change nothing. And then you are using the discriminated and the marginalized people in order to get some kind of legitimacy for your own structure, but they are actually excluding these people from participation. And this is one of the things that are being discussed during the last 50 years or more, about how participation are going to be really practiced. And there are several kinds of approaches, and one of these are a kind of ladder of participation in which you have non-participation at the bottom, and then you have some levels of participation, and in which you are more or less participating and both advising people who has power, the power holders and so on. And then you have the real citizen participation, in which you are empowered and you are transmitted power. So as you are actually exercising full managerial power. So you have a kind of agreement within, for example, when a government decide to do so. So it is a kind of transmission from the executive power to the people who has these necessities to organize. So I have been following this example in Venezuela, where actually a lot of people in the informal economy, they call this for the popular economy, 70% of the total Venezuelan economy is run by informal vendors. So this is quite a lot, and it's quite interesting because Venezuela is one of the richest countries in Latin America, has a lot of income from oil revenues and so on. But what is interesting is that, once again, the big majority of people who are organized in street vendors activities are women, and when these invitations, there is a discussion about, in research, about participation. This is intentions from the state or from non-governmental organizations about inviting spaces. You are giving space for people to participate, and then from these invitations, people are creating possibilities for inventing their own spaces of participation. So from the beginning, you have organizations, non-governmental organizations, or the government who has the will of invite people to participate. And when this is enabled, then the big majority of people who are participating and organizing and introducing novelties in the democratic system, for example, by introducing and giving the floor for street vendors, are, for example, women from the low stratas, from the working class stratas, and so on. And this is the way in which the transformation has taken place, for example, in Venezuela and in other countries following the same kind of path, Bolivia and Ecuador and Nicaragua and so on, even in Brazil. So we have a necessity to understand the importance of creating inviting spaces of participation. And then when these people can grasp this possibility to create on their own, so they got the possibility and they get resources and they can make a lot of miracles about that because they have the support from the government and the capabilities from their own struggles and their creativity to overcome different kinds of problems. So this is what is interesting. When you are creating, you are inviting spaces, and these inviting spaces are creating possibilities for excluded minorities, street vendors, migrants, women, and even persons with different kinds of functions and abilities. So they are also incorporated with their own ways of creating economic enterprises. And when they are participating, then introduce novelties to the whole economic and political system. So this is my reflection.
Thank you very much for those important reflections on the women factor and on inviting spaces, and for your presence here, Juan. Yes. We have just passed the time because we started a bit late. So I want to thank you for coming here and for joining this seminar, giving us your knowledge and your reflections. And I want to thank the audience, and I think I should give the floor to Lotta. But I want to give you a present before that. It's a poem in Swedish. Nu har jag ju fått ägna hela dagen åt att vara med på Stadsmissionerna, Sveriges Stadsmissioners fantastiska seminarier. Och jag har erfarenhet av ganska många. Och jag vill läsa en dikt för er av Werner Aspenström som handlar om att det är inte alltid knytnäven som vinner. Utan det går, och den brukar jag ta fram när jag känner mig uppgiven inför de krafter som verkar i vårt samhälle. Då tar jag fram den här dikten och så tänker jag på Stadsmissionerna, Röda Korset och några till. Och så lyder den så här. Hur muskulös den lilla flugan känns i knutna handen. Hur den brummar och stångas som en motorgräsklippare. Hur vingarna växer och växer och tvingar handen, knytnäven, plana ut sig till ett flygfält. Och flugan fri, men med blessyrer startar. Vi kan tvinga knytnäven att plana ut sig. Tack för att jag får vara med de här dagarna. Lotta, nu är det du.
Ja, vad var det?
För Stadsmissionerna så framför jag vårt stora tack för att du har hållit i hela den här dagen, tagit ny energi varje gång, haft ett sånt otroligt fokus i dina samtal och gjort våra förberedelser, våra ämnen, våra hjärtefrågor till dina. Du är en sann stadsmissionär, så röda korsare du är.
Very good.
Tack till alla som har gjort dagen möjlig rent praktisk. Tack till våra tolkar, men det var inte ni som var här när vi började i morse. Ni har bytt ut lite grann här. Köket, catering har redan fått våra tack. Vi har haft ljud som har fungerat. Vi har spelat in hela dagen. Det var säkert människor här redan igår kväll och ställde i ordning. Tusen tack till alla som har gjort dagen möjlig. Och tack till er som var våra gäster på det sista seminariet. Vi är tillbaka nästa år. Tack.